vide kelela odonna neni furu nyonde kelela odonna ay bangi boloda ne kanna ay bangi boloda kizela ay bangi boloda ne kunna ay bangi boloda ne nyala ne dosu kolobe dimina kune dumbe njaravi fe ne dumbe nganu fe ne dumbe njaravi fe ne dumbe nganu
Yarın sanımda creator of a project known as DIA. You saw it on the screen, Diasporic Images of Africa. And basically that project uses visual art. I'm a visual artist, former public school visual art teacher. Retired now, but I'm still teaching. Anyway, I have been doing something similar to this in the school systems, always focusing on the history months. Not this elaborately, but same vein. I have the students, okay, you're doing Asian, one of the things we always do is they like the origami. I said, well, where did origami come from? Someone said, oh, Japan. Oh, China. I said, you're both right, but I think China really originated in China. I said, where's China? Now, when I asked them these questions, it's not one here today, but it used to be over my head a large world map. I said, show me here. Take this ruler. Get up there. Show me. I said, well, okay, show me Africa. See, they couldn't read it because it's too high. They'd have to come up. It was hard for the children many times. And I taught K through 12, most of the time K through 8. But hey, wait a minute. When I was a 6th grader many moons ago, I could identify certain continents, maybe not all the countries, but China, that was easy, So anyway, I felt the need for them to understand where these countries are. Because if you don't understand where these countries are, somebody says Chinese, you know what that is. And then furthermore, what's the culture of that country? Or cultures? Africa's a continent, not a country. There are 53 or 54, I always get messed up, contiguous countries. But within each of those countries, there are numerous ethnic groups. Many of them don't look alike, but even if they look alike, one person speaking one language, another one speaking another language. Within the countries, there are who knows how many languages there are. So anyway, let me get back to the DIA thing. I felt the need, look at me, you know what I am, to show the importance of African culture and the diaspora. I was born and raised here, I'm American, but I'm from Caribbean parentage. First generation on one side, second generation on the other side, okay? So, I just got off the boat myself. So I've always taken umbrage to students or adults. I had some colleagues. Oh man, these immigrants. I said, what's the problem with immigrants? I didn't care what immigrant they were talking about. We were talking about European immigrants, which most times they weren't, but don't catch an attitude about immigrants. Because let me tell you something, Mr. and Miss America. Many of you can barely speak the English language, our only language correctly. Remember, the Europeans, the Africans, the Asians, within the country, they learn to speak numerous languages. Probably weren't even taught in school. So what are you talking about the immigrants? I don't have to remind you what we're going through now, but I'm getting off task. This is why I've decided to do this. The library has been generous in offering me a space to, at first, just do displays, which I've been doing for almost 3 years. And recently, last September, to start doing presentations. I told them what the presentations were. They take about an hour. I do these type of slideshows, video slideshows, which I hope to move into more of a video type thing where we have movies, but we're still at slideshows. I talk briefly. I generally always give a vocabulary list, which you have one, but it's not like the usual ones, because usually you get 10 words that I'm going to use, and it also can be found in the displays. I give them to you because many of you may have higher degrees than me, but you may not be familiar with the particular vocabulary that I'm going to use. In other words, if I say padong, okay, well now you know what padong is. I'm not talking about padong. No, I'm not talking about that. No. This is a people. Okay? If I said faluka, this is my favorite one. I don't want you to start thinking about, I'm talking about a hookah. No, not a hookah. We ain't smoking nothing here. I'm talking about a boat. An ancient African designed sailing vessel. So I would do these things so that we're all on the same page. And I'm still doing it, but a little differently at night. So enough about me. You saw the slideshow. I have you sit this way tonight because I want you to easily be able to, you know, flip around and see different things. I'm going to go on to your comments in a minute, but I just want to guide this for a little bit longer. When we're talking about Asia, and if you turn to, not the last map, the blank map, but if you turn to the colored version of the map of the world, it's an oval one. You see that the map is broken up into Western and Eastern hemispheres. And then of course, it's really broken into quarters because you have the equator that gives you a northern and southern hemisphere. Oh, that's what we're talking about. Well, we need to know that because nobody's talking about it now. They're talking about global warming as if it only happens over there. Well, wait a minute, ain't this a globe? Isn't this a round thing? When Fukushima happened a couple years ago, oh, the poor Japanese. No, the poor world, fool. Why? Because that radiation is eventually coming over here. And the fish, you think those fish only hang out in Japan? Oh, they don't speak Japanese, they like us Americans. We don't speak ye. You fool, you better think again. The ear, from when you dropped the first bomb, that's still affecting us today. So we as Americans, I'm talking we, I'll include myself, but you have to come out of this myopic, short-sighted, follow the party line rule. Start thinking. And if not for yourself, you all have children and grandchildren, some of y'all may have great-grandchildren, I don't know. But the point is, teach them a little something. You know what? You can read and can you think? I don't care if you ever went to college. You may be a dropout. So what? You can read and you can think. So you can teach. And for the females here, whether they ever born children of their own line or not, they are greatest and first teachers, always. Everybody got a mama. Some of us may have mamas we don't want to remember. That happens, but usually it's those dads that you really don't remember or might not once. The mothers, no. No. So, tonight, one of the things I wanted to show you, I mentioned the drawing in the middle. Oh, and by the way, these two paintings are by that gentleman back there who came in late. No. That's Brother Noah Williams. He painted that. You can talk with him about his work, you know, at some point this evening. But I asked him at the last meeting, and one of the things he said, I remember him doing a portrait of some Chinese person. I said, they may not even been Chinese, man. I don't know, they might have been Japanese, Korean, or something, but you know what I mean. So anyway, couldn't find that one, but we looked. Looked like she probably out of China. Maybe Japan, maybe Korea, I don't know. You know. My man over there, the Rebbe, or the Rabbi. I might have it wrong, but I'm sure he's a portrait of a Jewish gentleman. He's probably of the clergy, but maybe not. You say, well, Asian, that's Israel, that's not Asian. Look at the map again. If you break up the world, of course we know north and south is created by the equator. North and equator and north and south. But what about the prime meridian? And on the other side of the world, the international date line, they're one and the same. They break the world into halves in terms of, longitudinal, all right? Look at that map, the colored one, right? Look for, it'll show you the prime meridian, all right? When you look at it, you will see how little of even Europe is in the Western Hemisphere. Look at it. I was surprised with my myself. All right? Now, as I was taught, the line of demarcation, a natural one for Asia and Europe, is the Ural Mountains and the Ural River. Okay? Everything east of the Urals is Asia. And that's up in Russia, it comes down, right? We're still talking about an area of the world that has, number one, the most people. Look at the map. Number two, it's got the most land. Anyone care to debate that issue? According to those maps. Okay? So if you see where I'm trying to go with this, You know, we don't hear enough here in America on CNN, 472, when it comes to the news, how much do they tell you that is new or that's even functional or correct about this portion of the world? Oh, China's in the news now. You know, but all the Chinese look like, well, you know, and I'm not knocking those people. Hey, they're Chinese. But as I asked the young lady who told me she just came from China, well, not that long ago, she traveled, and she was struck by the fact that there was no one there that looked like me or her. A person that you would say, well, they must be black. And I said, well, you do know about Shanghai, by the way. A city in China, Shanghai. Everyone know that? Take the high off. What do you got? Shang. What did I tell you about the early dynasty? I think it was like the second dynasty that came and ruled for 600 or 700 years. Brought a lot of civilization. You know, I'm sure they killed people to get on the top. But they didn't go in there and just dominate and not leave things, teach the people. Shanghai, the Shang dynasty. The Khmer Rouge of the 70s in Cambodia, the Khmer people. All right, there are a lot of little clues that we need to start connecting. Let me just show you these two. You see these two here? One is from Tibet, one is from Bali. Which one of those two places is an island? Tibet or Bali? Come on, don't hurt yourself now. We're really scared. Take guesses, all right. Bali is an island. Now remember, I said Bali, not Mali. Don't get confused. But anyway, and this is why I do it, because you know, if you're not listening or if you're not thinking, what do you say? You know, what do they say? I said Bali. Bali is an island. It's on the Indonesian archipelago. It's one of the countries in Indonesia. I forget which island it hangs off of or is right close to. But at any rate, Indonesia. Tibet, of course, is an independent country. Used to be a part of India. I can't tell you when it became independent and named itself Tibet. But it's one of those countries, one of those small countries in India. At one time, Bali, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, all of that area is called the Hindu Kush. All right, and we have mountains by the same name, the Hindu Kush. But part of that Kush relates to another African group. Come on, Christians, you've heard of the Kushites. The Kushites came out of Africa. All right, even Manitoba. Okay, that's my case. So once again, this is what I'm trying to do, because you, me too, we're not taught this. More than likely. Some of you have advanced degrees. Some of you have traveled much more than me. And great. And I want to go with you next time. Let me get in that trunk. You know, I'll be quiet, you know. But if you can read and you can think, you can put little things together. Connect the dots. Get out of the old academic paradigms. Some of it's true when it comes to history. Most of it's not. And not even just because they're not telling the truth about African descendants. They're not telling the truth about many things. Women, you know, these history months, most of us are close, relatively close in age. But prior to the 70s, there was no women's history. There was Black history, but there was no Native American history. There was no Hispanic or Latino history. There was no what? Those people didn't do anything. Just like us lazy black folks, you know, we just like to eat chicken and we didn't really have no history. Egypt, oh, that's in the Middle East, that's not in Africa. What map are you looking at? You know, so this is important to me, and I hope that these things will at least inspire you to look. Because don't believe everything I say. Go and check it out. Read some of the authors and historians like Ivan Van Sertima, like W.E.B. Du Bois, like even Marcus to a certain degree, Marcus Garvey, who else? Sheikh Anta There are a number of authors and historians. Arthur Schomburg, who has a center named after him because he was such a prolific collector of pamphlets, manuscripts, and books that had to do with not only his culture as a Puerto Rican, but African culture and cultures of color throughout the world. This is a man that over 100 years ago had a library given to him, and he was put in charge of it because of the vast collection of information that he had. Now, the other reason was, segregation. It was 1912. We don't need you darkies up here. Okay? I understand that. But we'd never gotten a library had he not been well versed. And he did not go to Harvard. He did W.E. Boyce, but Schomburg could match him in terms of knowledge regarding history. So I'm just trying to get people to take another look. One more thing I'm going to point out. Oh, anyone have any idea where this print is from? Can you see it?
Australia.
It reminded me of Australia too. And it is Australia, yeah. Very good. It does. But I have these prints up here. Now this one in particular, and this one. To me, they remind me very much of African masks, but they're not. This is Papua New Guinea. This one, I believe, is the same. It's also Papua New Guinea. Yeah, no, it's from Melanesia. Melanesia. So it's Island Islands. They did say what island, New Ireland, in Melanesia. As you know, the Pacific Ocean is broken up into 3 categories: Micronesian, Polynesian, and Melanesian. All right. I mentioned it in the title piece. Just trying to get us to think more globally, and focus a little bit more on these people, because we're very fortunate living here in the New York metro area. Everybody's here. But most of us don't know who they are. Well, because they dress like us. Yeah, you say, oh, that's a Chinese guy. How are you Chinese American? No, he just got off the boat. And he knows history that we are yet to know. And we don't know his culture. All we know about Chinese people sounds bad. Oh, well, they make good food. They do a lot more than that, man. Did you see that engineer over there? And he's Chinese American too. What? You thought he learned it here? No. So we have to come out of this myopic thought, and I'm hoping that by doing what I do, I can help to bring us out. Comments, questions, because I sit up here, I don't want to preach. Comments, questions, please. Don't be afraid. There's no comment that's crazy, and there's no wrong answer. Except one of those answers back here. But no, whatever you feel, please. Your experiences of any sort with Asia or the Pacific Islands, anything that you might know that I left out, or that you just want to share with folks. We're a small, intimate group today, so we don't have to, feel free. I'm watching the clock, but I think we have plenty of time. Anyone care to share their experience or anything with the group?
That just was drawn to that sentence you have in here, that scientists who compared the skeletal DNA of human remains from around the world say their results point to the modern humans, Homo sapiens, having a single origin in Africa, which is not a common truth that we hear about very much.
Right. But if you look at the date of that, it's a little date. That particular article, but it's not that date. 2007. So it's a decade, 11 years old. Now, they've come to this, and I've seen articles older than this, saying the same thing. What? Originally out of Africa, OOA, or there's another term. But anyway, that mankind began in Africa. So what does that mean? That means everybody Africa. That also means there's only one real race. Because if we're all human in here, no matter what you call yourself, whatever race you say you are, I'm white. Well, well, you know, I'm Native American, so I'm red. Well, I'm Chinese, well, I'm yellow, or I'm brown. Listen, you're human first, and everybody came from the same source. One blood, one race. We can get the darkest person in here with the palest person who would definitely tell you that I'm Caucasian or I'm white. And if they needed to transfuse the bloods, after it's finished, they both walk away. Years later, no one has become darker, no one has become lighter. It's human blood. As long as you got the right chemistry there, you're fine. You know, you transplant organs. You take a black heart, well, oh, now you're going to start dancing and eating. No, stop.
I think that one time.
I mean, it might happen, but that's not really, you know. But we have this type of, we have adults thinking this, because it's children.
Yeah. Also, one thing I want to say too, you know, people who get their DNA checked. I had my DNA done, and my DNA starts in Eastern Africa around Tanzania, and it migrates into Western Asia, then up to Europe. So that's the migration route, and that's my DNA, because I'm only 64% African.
Right.
So, and that's real. That's the science.
DNA is one of the probably newest things that help us to tell history where we couldn't 20, 30, 40 years ago. But in trying to reconstruct history, anybody's history, you know, you have to go into anthropology, archaeology, geology, geography, linguistics. You know, there's a number of things that you have to go, a number of disciplines you have to go through in order to pull the story together. It's not just history. And this is something that I want the youth, because as I was going through school history, you know, but if someone had broken it down to me similar to how I'm trying to break it down to you or how we're discussing it now, I don't think I'd have been so disinterested. And especially if they had spent more time talking about people who look like me, and even people who don't look like me. But when you come every year with the same old, World War I, World War II, right on. All right, look, I had enough. There's much more history to be told here. And I wasn't mad just because everyone was white, you know. But I got tired of hearing the same thing. I heard about Harriet, Nat Turner, all the people 1,000 times. That's the only people we have? No, come on. And when are we going to talk about Africa? Oh, Africa, we're not talking about that. Well, why not? So, once again, that's why I'm here today. And we'll be here as long as the Creator says. The Saman people, I've seen it spelled 2 different ways. This lady, this country right over here, you saw it in the slideshow. When you look at that lady, if I was to tell you she's from Malaysia, if you met, I've only met 2 Malaysian women, they look more Asian and they're lighter. And of course, the texture of their hair, the rest of their phenotype did not look like hers. So that's why I found her and put her in me. You know, and I was having a discussion with a lady earlier today. I said, you know, you cannot go with the idea that, you know, if you go to Malaysia, if you go to China, if you go to Japan, if you go, you know, outside countries, even Europe, that, oh, well, black people were here. In Europe, of course, we tend to think that because of World War II and World War I, when you see a black person who says they are there from their country, they're usually the product of an American soldier and a woman native to that country. That's that child. If the child stays, that offspring and whatever. But you have Africans who went there centuries to thousands of years before. And all you have to do is start with it. As a matter of fact, you don't like to read? Because I don't like to read either. There's YouTube. If you got a computer, you got a phone, go on YouTube. Now, I know you can't believe everything on a computer. I understand. But listen to some of the things that they're saying. Look at these things. Read them. And think about it. And see if it doesn't make some modicum of sense. All right? One last thing I was going to tell you about. This thing, Negrito. Most Hispanic people, especially Hispanics of the Caribbean, you know, Negrito, little black. Also, it's a term of endearment in some countries, you know. But the Negrito, I don't know where they got this term from, but it really referred to the people that we would call, many call pigments. And the pigments, as you know, I shouldn't call them pigments. I've been forgotten. But they are diminutive people. They are short people. They are little black folks. So maybe that's how it came about. I don't know who coined the phrase first. But, you know, there's so much in Asia to look at and to learn about. We couldn't live long enough to really understand it all.
Yeah, I was wondering, just kind of hearing you, a little while ago, I read a book called The Unknown Uprisings of Asia, and it was just from the 70s till early 2000s. And multiple, you know, from Burma to Malaysia to Tibet, you know, millions of people overthrowing dictators or kings and things like that. In my lifetime, I'd never even heard about. In the 2000s, revolutions as big as Arab Spring, and I had no clue how much inspiration was coming. I remember, I didn't know Afghanistan was part of Asia. That like blew my mind. I was like, wait, what? But how come? Because even I feel like high school students or in the United States, people know Africa. They're like, like this is Africa. But Asia, if you were trying to, people your age to my age to high school, if you're like point out all of Asia just on a blank map, for some reason, so why is it that Asia is just, I'm just interested in people's thoughts why Asia has been kind of, I think there's been more systemic racism to Africa. Not that like Japanese and Chinese folks didn't experience racism, but yeah, just interested that somehow Asia is just not taught at all in schools, really. Except for, yeah, curious to your thoughts.
Well, my thought is, number one, when I think of Asia, not anymore, but when I used to, I think of the Chinese first, and then I would think of the Indians. I don't forget about everybody else. Afghanistan, I was like you. Pennsylvania, you know, you start talking about Indonesia, you'd have to show me on the map. I'm going back many years. I said, wow, isn't that in the Pacific Ocean? Well, it is. It leads out into the Pacific, but it's also partly in the Indian. I said, that's all Asia until you get out to the Pacific. And then you're in the Melanesian, Micronesian, Polynesian islands. All right, but why Asia? Because when I think of those people, and I think this is very stereotypical to this day, they're quiet. At least in this country. You know, even many East Indians, you know, they stay to themselves. And you don't hear them up there rah-rah, make a bunch of noise and jumping into political discourse and all that. And that's another reason why I showed you Yuri Kochiyama. She was an activist, just a general activist, but she was for human rights. And one of the human rights she was concerned with, and I don't know if she hailed from having any African ancestry, was the Civil Rights Movement, which was a black movement. All right, which was not only a black movement, it was primarily. People in the few Asian people, specifically Japanese, they never jumped up. And she did that until the end of her life, which was only recently. She was in her 90s. I don't know. You have to ask other folks what they feel about it.
But like even looking, I mean the last thing, but even looking at China, like their student movement in the 60s was millions larger than like SDS, the weather, but like, I'm like, how did that not be talked? Literally like 5 to 10 million more people took the streets than here. It was just like,
oh my God, 3 billion, 3.6 billion, something.
But it's almost like it doesn't happen under a communist or something. It was just,
I think that when you have a country like China, Japan, they're all one race. So there's automatically more harmony there than there is here. So they can kind of unify to pursue whatever their agenda is. You know, they're not caught up into a whole lot of things that are unique to this country because there are different cultures here. And I think it's really kind of simple. I think it's kind of obvious that as far as I can see, everybody's the same race. But even that comes with There's problems because even when you have people of the same race, they have different ways of dividing and separating you, like old money, new money. Like in India, they got the caste system. England, I mean, the French Revolution, they killed off half the French people because of they're the same race, but for whatever reason, you know, in England they have the, you know, a higher class, a lower class, and you know, it's always going to be some way to separate and divide. To me, it gets into a matter of self-esteem and the extent we will go to have at the expense of someone else, you know, and it just goes on and on and on. It never stops.
I was just going to say that there's a book, Yellow Peril. I don't know if anyone's read this book. It's a very thick book, but it's a great book. But it's called The Yellow Peril, and it's basically talking a little bit what Derek was just saying about the fact there was a very conscious effort in media and everything else to speak of people from Eastern Asia in a derogatory way, but when you start, they did a tracing of all the American media addressing Eastern Asian people, and terms like the yellow and all these different phrases that are used that just became part of the way people spoke about people from East Asia. It was really interesting, some of the things that just that became like commonplace that were so derogatory, and then especially after World War II, but even way, way before that. And it's a really good book. It takes a bit, it took me a long time to read it. But the other, almost like counterpoint to what you were just saying, I worked in Flushing, Queens for 12 years, and over that period of time, I worked with a lot of people from a lot of parts of the world, over 165 languages spoken there, and I realized my ignorance about how much cultural diversity there is within, first of all, China is so huge, but culturally there's so much difference that, you know, we would have an event and say, you know, it's for the Chinese community, the Chinese American community, and there would be so many different stories and traditions that would come out of people that are all from China, which is, you know, say, oh, in this part of China we do nothing like that. We're totally different, you know. So it's, and then when you start getting into all the different parts of Asia, I mean, it's just majority. It's just mind-boggling, like how much diversity that there is. But we kind of have these visions of there's people don't even think of like Southeast Asia is very different than East Asia, and it's really. Back to Derek's question, it is interesting culturally in our country how we view or how it's sort of portrayed that people think of China, Japan, Korea, India.
So they forget.
Sometimes not even India. They would drop it.
That is true. That's why Japan was could easily overtake China in World War II, because although the Chinese were all of the same race, they were still divided. They were kingdoms over here and warlords, and they were fighting amongst themselves. And Japan capitalized off of it. It's just that simple. So, like I said, you know, even when you have everybody of the same race, physically anyway, there's still a lot of stuff that separates and divides people. Period. Always, and it's just. Well, I don't even go into that, but it's just a way of dividing and conquering, and it's effective, and it always has worked. It probably always will work. You know.
Are you ready to answer?
Well, I'm the one you were speaking to
I didn't want to call you out.
yeah, about having gone to China. I went to China around this time last year, and whatever ill-conceived notions I had about the Chinese people here, how they acted, when I went to China, I realized why. The whole time I was there, I never saw another minority, ever. We were in the 3 largest cities, as I was saying to you, and we were an oddity to them. I'm speaking about, there were 2 other individuals that looked like myself on this tour, and they were coming up to us and taking pictures and touching our hair and touching our skin, and no one spoke English. Not one person other than our guides spoke English. When I came back, I realized that a lot of the notions I had, they have a difficulty here trying to relate to us because of that. You know, so where we think they are standoffish, and they stand so close to us here, when I came back, I asked one of the professors at the college, and they said it was because they're only a generation removed from not having what they needed. Because over there, they stand right here. Right here. There's no personal space at all. It was very off-putting because we're walking down the street and they're right here. There's no, excuse me, there's no anything to let you know they're just, they knock you out of the way. I mean, it was amazing. And then when I came back, I realized that it was because this is how they act here. That a lot of people have a bad thought process about the individuals, but it's
a culture.
yeah, and they're not used to us. They're not used to us. And as I said to you, I came back and then I went to Thailand, and even though there was no one that looked like us in Thailand, it was entirely different. They were very welcoming and tried their best to speak to us in English, tried their best to understand what our needs were, but in China, not at all. Not at all.
What are you saying, they were like rude, or they were
Oh, yeah, but see, we think of it as rude,
yeah.
but they don't think of it that way.
Oh.
It took a learning experience. Like every time I talk to someone here, they're like, I don't like going to the Chinese restaurants, let's say, or anything like that, because they don't greet you, they don't say, they just, what do you want? This is it, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Yeah.
But when you get over there, you realize that this is how they are with each other, and they don't have anything else to relate to. Like you just said, everybody looks like them. So we're walking down the street and they're, like I was saying to Mr. Trott, they're running at us, they're taking pictures. I mean, it was scary in a way, but it was a learning experience.
So that experience, was it good, bad, or just different?
It made me more patient here, if you can understand that.
I'm trying to.
Okay, I'm not taking it personal.
Yeah.
When I'm here and I come across a Chinese person who's acting that way towards me, okay, I'm not thinking to myself, oh, it must be because I'm African or Puerto Rican or whatever I am. I'm looking at it like this is how they were brought up over there. They're not used to us. They're not used to us. And being over there, I could see how if I lived there and came here, it would just be a completely different world as to our customs, what we do, we don't do.
On a personal level, which ideology or culture did you like best? Like the closeness, the physically closeness?
Oh no,
I like it here.
I liked Thailand. If you're talking about those countries or here? No, I want
just
personal
comparing.
space.
Yeah.
I want personal space. I was talking to a young woman that was there, and she was saying to me, I've been standing at this bus stop for an hour. It was a young white woman, a tourist. She goes, I've been standing at this bus stop for an hour, and every time the bus comes, I miss it, because everybody throws themselves in front of me. Nobody's saying, excuse me, or, get in line, and she's going, I don't know what to do. And I said, what you're gonna have to do is push and get on it, while you're doing it. So, of course, you want that, having grown up here, you want that, it's very off-putting, but now I can understand it more than I could before. Before I generalized it. But since they don't have anyone that looks like us, especially like I was in Shanghai, Beijing, and Zhang, they don't know how to relate to us. That's the problem. They don't know how to relate. They don't know what we expect or what we're used to or they just don't. So now I'm more patient here. Can you understand what I mean?
Yeah, it's hard to, but
I can understand when I'm not going to take their cold shoulder for rudeness anymore. Or the fact that, okay, I may look a certain way, so they don't want me there.
I know, because when here we go again, when I go to get Chinese food, and I say, well, can you put extra so-and-so in it? And he just goes, okay, and leaves. I'm like,
right. See what I'm saying?
That was rude, I'm paying. I want extra sauce.
But that's how they are. So they're not used to saying, okay, and thank you, and have a good day. It's none of these pleasantries that we're so used to and are ingrained in us. They're just boom, this is it.
All right, I hate to cut this short, but I want to get this last question. We're getting close to the hour. Everybody want to talk. Y'all want to talk before. Stop. Go ahead.
First of all, I just wanted to say that I love what you're doing here. This is great, and as so much of our history has been taken away from us, this is a great way to give back and learn more about it. I wanted to ask a question on the base when you were saying that we were all one race and everything originated in Africa, and I've read that throughout the years in a couple of different things, and it seemed to be like a growing thing. And I've never been in a situation to be able to ask this question, but I just wanted to ask the Europeans or the Caucasians here, do they believe that they are children of Africa as the history says? I just wanted to ask them that question. I never been put anybody on the spot, but I never been informed like this, and I just wanted to know.
I have a vote on that statement.
1 second, let them answer.
I'm sorry, I thought he was
We
finished.
heard you, we talked to, and you were not that. Well, your comments. Let us first have it.
That was new for me. And that's why I asked the question originally. And I was going to ask a little, Charles, maybe say more about Lucy. I don't know. I mean, I heard that, but I didn't know.
All right. Would anyone else like to speak that is of Caucasian persuasion?
Well, I can answer that my name is Carrie, which actually is Carre, which it means the dark one.
Really?
And it means belonging to the dark tribe. So chances are,
What language?
I'm Irish,
Ah.
I'm Irish. I'm Irish too.
right?
Right. Yeah, see? Okay. I don't know if anyone else would like to address your question.
I'm just trying not to talk too much.
Well, I'm just trying to get it, have them address the issue and then we'll go ahead.
The lovely lady in blue.
I really like the idea. I have to say that it's sort of new, but I love people of all types. I have a son who spent a lot of time in Africa. I've learned so much from him and his experiences, and it's a nice thought. I like the thought that we're all from the same place. I just never thought too much about it. And what I wanted to say when I was just listening before is I'm sad that people don't think like this. I think about a lot of my friends that they're just content to go on with the way the world is and how things are and what they've learned and just embraced. And it's depressing. They don't challenge. They don't look for what's out there. So that's bothersome. This is a great group. I'm so glad I'm here. Thank you.
You want to finish up?
Well, I mean, I think, yes, I'm very familiar with that. And I think scientifically, that's what I've always believed. Not in high school again, because we're not told that. But once I started reading, it became very apparent. But I also see science as sometimes a colonial tool. So I work with a lot of indigenous folks native to Turtle Island, or what we now call the United States. And a lot of indigenous people, they'll be like, oh, your people came over the land bridge and you're connected to China. And to them, they're like, that's your colonial thought. Their creation story, for instance, I work with the Navajo, is in northern Arizona, southern Colorado. And they believe they came out, along with the Hopi near the Grand Canyon, that they came out from a spring in the earth. So that indigenous people there would actually say they didn't start from Africa, they started from there. So there's sort of science's definition of where people start, and then there's indigenous thought that have another, reason of where they came from. And I think, race is really beautiful that, I think we did all probably come from Africa. I just don't believe in absolutes, but I think it's important to be like, yes, we're one race,
Yes.
but also have to understand to celebrate different ethnicities
Yes.
and recognize specifically whiteness comes with privilege and power and violence. So even though we all are from one race, we have to recognize that because there's always power in race and racism, that certain people have privilege over others. And
This is our white illness. I'm just kidding. Well, that's another.
I just want to show this map.
But there's patriarchy for sure.
I just want to show this map because you brought up something I forgot. I got this book for a reason. It's a library reference book, Atlas. You see these currents? These are currents in the water. We have comparable currents in the air necessary for sailing and, of course, for now flying. But what Derek said about, the first Native Americans came over the Aleutian Island land bridge at the time, Well, they probably did, but they never spoke about, and there were other people that came over to the Americas as well. They looked more like so-called black people in here. Nobody talks about that. How'd they get here? Some of them might have come to the land bridge, but you know what? If you can find ancient sailing vessels, and some people say, oh, they were sailing the rivers. No, they took that knowledge of putting a sailing vessel that sailed the Nile and other great rivers in Africa and learned how to do it in the sea. Plus, they had help. They understood the stars. So
Yes.
They developed instruments early on. Oh, the Arabs did the astrolabe. Yeah, but okay. But if you think back to the date, those Arabs, many of them didn't look like the Arabs we know today. Okay? And once again, nobody told us about these currents. Unless you go to Navy, Merchant Marines, something like that. Hey, who knows about currents? Nobody wants to talk about it. So, there's a lot of stuff in this history when you start to put it, and this is not that progressive a world atlas as far as I'm concerned. But I saw this and I said, man, this is part of the whole same story. So we have to look into things like this. I think it's almost 7, but I'm going to give whoever can tie things up about a minute or two, a couple minutes to say whatever they'd like to say, comment, question, or whatever. And then I think we're going to have to shut it down.
It's a little bit after.
It's a little after. Well, I started a little bit after. Any last comments?
I just want to say one thing. We're all one. We're all one race. We're all one blood. I don't care what color or where you're from. You're human. We have one blood and we're all one. Until we learn that we are one and get along like we are one, we are destructing ourselves. So we have to learn that we are one and be that.
Great, like that. Remind me of Dr. King. I probably messed that statement up.
I'm going to march right now.
Right. We need to learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish as fools. And look like we're getting ready to go right now.
Yes.
Anyway. Oh, and don't believe me. Go read. Go travel. Matter of fact, who's going there? You go there? Tell your husband you're taking your trunk, I'm getting in.
I am going to say one thing, okay, and this is something I'm really ashamed of. I am Puerto Rican, and so I grew up in a culture where if you told a Puerto Rican that they came from Africa, you were just about blaspheming them. Right? Yeah, they did not want to know that they came from Africa. No, I am not African American. No. Yeah. So it has taken me years to identify that way because I wasn't interested in the African American history. I wasn't interested in any of that because that wasn't my history. And it's only been, I'd say, within the last 15, 20 years, I guess, of my life that I've come to terms with the fact that that is my history, and I'm learning more about it every day. And as I told you, I'm going now to the Brazilian rainforest, and I'm looking forward to even learning more. Yes. When I get there, because I'm quite sure I'm going to see people that look like me there.
There's some pictures back.
Yes. So definitely, it's taken, And I'm ashamed to admit that there are a lot of people in my ethnic group who still won't admit that.
Well,
I'm sure you know this.
Right,
And
and
so,
overplaying it
yeah.
down, you know, rice and
Yeah.
beans down, you know, Platanos and all that. you
All of
know.
that, but they do not want to know that they are one blood or any of that. So it's been a learning experience, but as she said, you have to be open to learning and you have to be open to the diversity that's around you, because without it, like when I was in China and I was saying to you, they are lost when they go somewhere and not everyone looks like them.
Right.
So,
Well, folks, thank you for coming out. I hope to see you
Thank you.
again in
Thank you.
September,
Thank
in
you.
November, on
Odonna, neni jarabide kelela, Odonna.